Good day, everyone. In this presentation, we will be discussing about the Executive Order 210, DEPED Memorandum Number 81, Series of 2003, also called as establishing the policy to strengthen the use of the English language as a medium of instruction in the educational system. The reporters of this presentation are none other than myself, Ms. Hannah Enriquez, and Ms. Sydney Acuna. Before further discussion of the policy, it is necessary for us to recall or talk about the people behind the policy. In the picture, we can see Maria Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, born in April 5, 1947, often referred to by her initials PGMA and GMA, is a Filipino academic and politician who previously served as the 14th President of the Philippines from 2001 to 2010. Before her accession to the presidency, she served as the 10th Vice President of the Philippines from 1998 to 2001 under President Joseph Ejercito Estrada, making her the country's first female vice president. After Estrada was accused of corruption, Arroyo resigned her cabinet position as the Secretary of the SWD and joined the growing opposition against the president, who faced impeachment. Later, Estrada was soon forced out from the office by the Second EDSA Revolution in 2001, and Arroyo was elected to a full sixth term in the controversial 2004 presidential election in the same year. She ordered the DepEd to restore English as the medium of instruction in all schools and universities in the country to improve the students' proficiency in the language and make them more globally competitive. She said, our English literacy, our aptitude, and skills give us competitive edge in information and communication technology. We must improve our English literacy, which we are fast losing. She stated that until Congress enacts a law mandating Filipino as the medium of instruction, the DepEd should use English as the primary medium of instruction, provided some subjects will still be taught in Filipino. She added that she wants these changes in the curriculum as well as other education reforms she proposed, worked on immediately so these reforms can be implemented by June of this year. In the 1987 Philippine Constitution, Section 7, Article 14 states that the purposes of communication and instruction, the official languages of the Philippines are Filipino and, until otherwise provided by law, English. Therefore, in May 17, 2003, Arroyo signed the Executive Order 210, Memorandum Number 81, Series of 2003, the policy of the state to promote education as a means to achieve and maintain an accelerating rate of economic development and social progress, because there is a need to develop the aptitude, competence, and proficiency of our students in the English language to maintain and improve their competitive edge in emerging and fast-growing local and international industries, particularly in the area of ICT. In here it aims to strengthen the use of the English language as a medium of instruction and also depends on the improvement of the entire educational system, particularly in the training of educators and the provision of learning materials and resources. In this part of the presentation, we will discuss about the different sections in the policy. Section number 1, Declaration of Policies. Declaration of Policies. A. English shall be taught as a second language, starting with the first grade. Some of us might remember that in the early years of our education, there are teachers who implement English in their methods of learning, whether through verbal or in the learning materials. However, it is indeed a challenge for the teachers and students to incorporate English because of the language barriers. And as we know that students learn better when they are taught using their mother tongue. B. As provided for in the 2002 Basic Education Curriculum, English shall be used as the medium of instruction for English, mathematics, and science from at least the third grade level. In this policy, English shall not only be taught in the English subject, but also in mathematics and science, at least in the third grade level, for the students to be familiarized in learning using the second language. C. The English language shall be used as a primary medium of instruction in all public and private institutions of learning in the secondary level, including those established as laboratory and/or experimental schools, and non-formal and vocational or technical educational institutions. As the primary medium of instruction, the percentage of time allotment for learning areas conducted in the English language is expected to be not less than 70% of the total time allotment for all learning areas in the secondary level. This policy specifies the use of English in most, if not all, learning institutions in the Philippines. However, despite the initiative and implementation of the government, it is not often or sometimes not even applied in the classroom because it is impractical for the teachers and students to use English every day. Not only that, but students learn faster in using Filipino. It is because of factors such as language barriers, lack of proficiency and mastery of the language, and we should also emphasize the level of not being comfortable in using the language hinders the students and the teachers themselves in using English in education. It is important to remember that the objective of the policies is to develop the aptitude, competence, and proficiency of all students in the use of the English language to make them better, prepare them for job opportunities emerging in the new technology driven sectors of the economy. In this next section, we will be discussing about the institutions of higher education. Institutions of higher education, including state colleges and universities, are hereby encouraged to adopt the use of the English language as a primary medium of instruction in the tertiary level. The SHED shall adopt measures to promote and encourage the use of the English language as a primary medium of instruction in the tertiary or higher education level. As students of English major, we know that we are always encouraged to speak in fluent English. It is because as future educators, it is our responsibility to be knowledgeable and fluent in English. So when we're already teaching in the future, we can teach students in an effective manner.
So here in section 3, let me discuss to you the proficiency of teachers. The DEPED, through the National Educators Academy of the Philippines or NEAP, the Educational Development Project Implementing Task Force or EDPTOF, the CHED, the TESDA, as well as through the educational institutions in the private sector, shall evaluate the proficiency of educators in the English language and conduct training programs nationwide to develop and improve it. So here in section 3, it tends to explain that every educational sector such as the DepEd, NEAP, EdPTOF, CHED, and TESDA, they must implement the proficiency of educators in the English language. So basically, the teachers or the educators must at least have the knowledge in using English language and must conduct training programs to improve and develop the usage of it. So here in section 4, allow me to discuss to you the support mechanisms needed to provide by the teachers or by the educators. So in support mechanisms, these are the implementation of the authorities specified in Section 5 hereof shall undertake to secure the funding support necessary to provide adequate learning materials and resources that will develop the aptitude, competence, and proficiency of students in the English language. They shall also collaborate in developing an evaluation instrument that will make it possible to monitor the progress of educators and students in achieving the policy objectives established herein. So, in section 4, it is clear that the teachers are obliged to provide support mechanisms such as learning materials and learning resources as well that help the students to develop their level of competency and proficiency in using the English language. So, in addition to that, the teacher is also tasked to commit in developing an instrument that will evaluate the students to monitor whether they have progress and if they achieve the policy or requirements in the objectives that are established. So let us move forward to the next slide, which is the section 5, the implementation or implementing authorities. So it states here that the DEPED and the TESDA are hereby directed to take active steps to ensure the implementation of this executive order and monitor compliance therewith in all public and private institutions of learning in the elementary and secondary levels, including those established as laboratory and or experimental schools and non-formal and vocational or technical education institutions. So meaning to say, the implementing authorities, basically it is self-explanatory because it is all about the implementation of the executive order to monitor the compliance in public and private institutions of learning, such as in elementary and secondary levels. So that's it. So let's move forward to the next slide. So in section 5, it explained the implementation of authorities. Here in section 6, we will discuss the implementing rules and regulations. The DEPED, the CHED, and the TESDA are hereby authorized to issue the appropriate rules and regulations for the effective implementations of the policies established herein. So here in section 6, it is given from its title. This is the time where the implementation of rules and regulations in schools have been applied or executed, meaning to say, these rules and regulations tend to have an effective policies that the student must obey. So here in section 7, let me discuss to you the meaning of report to the President. So it states here that within 30 days from the issuance of the executive order, the DEPED, the CHED, and the TESDA shall submit to the President a plan of action to effectively implement the provisions of this executive order. Meaning to say, the three educational sectors such as CHED, TESDA, and DEPED, they are obliged to submit the copy of plan of action to the President to the effective implementation of provisions of the executive order. So here in section 8, it tends to explain the usage of the Filipino language. Pursuant to the constitutionally mandated policy of the government to ensure and promote the evolution, development, and further enrichment of Filipino as the national language of the Philippines, the Filipino language shall continue to be the medium of instruction in the learning areas of Filipino and Araling Panlipunan. Meaning to say, in Section 8, this is where the Filipino language is being executed in some various subjects such as Filipino and Araling Panlipunan, because it states here that the Filipino language shall continue to be the medium because it is the further enrichment of Filipino as the national language of the Philippines. So let me discuss to you the next slide, which is the section 9, guarantee of academic freedom. Nothing in this executive order shall be construed as limiting the academic freedom of institutions of higher education. So for your better understanding, let me discuss or elaborate this section. Here in this section, when we say construed, it means agreement. So basically in section 9, it tells us that this section provides an agreement about the limitations of academic freedom in higher educations. So let's move forward to the next section, which is a section 10, repealing clause. So in section 10, it tells us that all executive issuances, rules and regulations or parts thereof which are inconsistent with this executive order are hereby repealed, amended, or modified accordingly. Meaning to say, in Section 10, it tells us that the rules and regulations and also the academic issuances that are inconsistent or uncertain must repealed, or in easiest word, or for you to better understand the word repealed, it is must be revoked. Last but not the least, the section 11, which tells us the effectivity. This executive order shall take effect immediately upon approval, meaning to say, from the title itself, effectivity. So, the executive order or this executive order is required to take an effectiveness immediately when it is approved by the sector or by the officials. So, that's it. That concludes my discussion. The rest, it will be discussed by my co-report or co-discussant, Miss Enriquez.